With unpredictable weather issues and lower commodity prices, growers across the country are wondering what they can do this fall to prepare for next season to get higher yields and higher return on their investment. Monty's Plant Food Company has an answer for them. Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Marlin Bohling. Tonight we are joined once again by the folks from Monty's Plant Food Company, and we have a very special guest as well. With me are Joe Dedman, Monty's Vice President of Agronomy, and Dr. Ron Heiniger. He is with North Carolina State University. Welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. Always a pleasure to have Monty's with us, so we're looking forward to our discussion tonight. Well, tonight we're going to be talking a lot about the influence that Monty's products are having on soil health and the many successes that farmers have been seeing out in the fields. And we'll be talking also about what growers can do this fall to prepare their crops for next season as well. Farmers are taking a hard look at their return on investment, especially with the low commodity prices. Isn't that right, Joe?
That is right. I think farmers are really focusing on that return on investment, which they should be. Because they can't eliminate spending all their money, but they need to look at the products that really give them a great return on their investment. And Monty's has products that do that for them.
Absolutely. And later in the show, we're going to be talking about some newer products as well, right?
Correct. That's right.
All right, really exciting stuff. And I want to remind everybody that any time during the show, you can call in to Monty's with questions. Their team is standing by to answer your questions. So if you want to grab a pen, now's the time to do it. Jot down this number, and it's a toll-free number. I'll remind you, it's 800-978-6342. Again, 800-978-6342. Or you can also visit their website at montysplantfood.com. Well, Dr. Heiniger, as much as we've talked about you and your research at North Carolina State, we're really excited to have you on the show, and I wondered if you could maybe share with our viewers at home and our listeners on Rural Radio what it is that brought you to this point. Tell us a little bit about your background, if you would.
Sure, Marlin. I'm a farm boy at heart. You know, I was born and raised on a farm in northeastern Kansas, got my bachelor's degree at Kansas State University. When my dad passed away, when I was finishing up that degree, I came home and farmed for 13 years. So I understand what farmers are going through with tough times and difficult situations. When my brother joined me, I decided, hey, I wanted to do something a little more with my life, so I went back to Kansas State and finished my master's and PhD, and then got hired to do a cropping systems specialist position at North Carolina State University. I've been working out of the Vernon James Research Center in the eastern part of that state on applied research ever since. And along the way, I've had some real great experiences. I won the Gerald Mott Award for Outstanding Research when I was at Kansas State. I've been named the Outstanding Extension Specialist for both the corn and small grain groups in North Carolina, as well as the Outstanding Extension Specialist in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at North Carolina State. So it's been a wonderful career. I've seen it from both sides, from the research side, from the farm side, and just enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, you have a really unique perspective, and that comes in really handy in a case like this, that's for sure. And you and I actually have quite a few parallels. I grew up in north central Kansas. I farmed there for 25 years, and then when I left there, I went to North Carolina. So I worked with North Carolina State for about 10 years. So interesting, the parallel paths that we've taken, and I'm fascinated by that. I wondered if you could tell us about some of the research that you're doing at North Carolina State these days.
Well,
especially as it relates to humics.
Exactly. I have an applied research job. I really want to know that my research is making a difference on the farm. And so one of the things we wanted to look at is how do we stimulate plants to take up nutrients? So we got into humic research back in the late 90s when I first getting interested in humics there. And because of that, we learned a lot about the role that humics play. I've got a picture up here showing the soil profile. And, you know, farmers think about phosphorus or nitrogen or potassium as being major elements in their cropping system, but really the key element is carbon. You know, most plants, of course, fix carbon from the air as far as their structural, but what we really want to think about when we think about carbon is what it's doing in our soils. And we've got such a complex world of live materials such as roots and microbes and bacteria and fungi, as well as plant detritus, humus, organic matter, and of course these humic acids that we're going to talk a little bit more about. So it's fascinating as we look under the surface and start to understand what's going on. So that's been some of the focus that we've had in our research, is really starting to understand what's going on below the surface there. Yeah, I've got a slide here that talks a little bit about some of these components. You know,
right.
Most growers think about organic matter as a charged material that helps hold nutrients, and certainly that's a good way to think about it. It's a storehouse. It helps retain nutrients available for a plant. And then we talk about, what do humic acids do? Well, these are short chain carbons with highly charged carboxyl or phenolic groups, and they really are the energy part of the soil. And that's really what's excited me about humics as we looked at them, is they're the energy component that really takes the nutrients from the storehouse and helps facilitate their movement to the root surface and into that plant there. I've got another picture here, or a slide, that talks a little bit about some of these unique properties of these humic acids here. For instance, they got a unique property in that they drive forward reactions. They're energetic, in other words, they latch on to nutrients such as potassium. They can chelate or bond to nutrients. They also provide a source of proton pump for that soil, or for that root to exchange protons with the soil, and in the process help move phosphorus and potassium across that root membrane. So a number of properties that humic acids have that really help. And why is this important to our discussion here tonight? Well, of course, Monty's liquid carbon contains humic acid. In fact, that's the main substrate of the product that really got me excited about trying to figure out how it was going to work. And so we've done some work over the last 5 to 10 years and looking specifically at the Monty's products. One of the most fascinating things as we looked at them is how they play this role in facilitating nutrient uptake. You know, farmers think about applying nutrients, and then they think that's all that they need to do. But it's not just applying the nutrient. You've got to move it from the soil into the plant.
Right.
And that's where the humics come in. So, for instance, I got a slide that shows our data from tiller development that we had here. We did some studies in which we looked at differences between tillers. There it is. Between tiller numbers with no carbon, no liquid humics added, and Monty's liquid carbon added. And you can see there that I've got a check treatment where we didn't add any nutrients, and then treatments with 30% UAN, 1137.0, and 918.9 as basically a starter fertilizer solution there. And in every case, we get an increase in the number of tillers developed, which tells me tillers develop in a wheat plant very early, which tells me that helped facilitate nutrient uptake very early in that plant growth and helped to build those tillers. What's even more fascinating about that slide is the fact that our largest increase came when we added nutrients. So indeed, that's just telling you once again that indeed these humic acids are critical for taking the added nutrients that the farmers are putting on the soil and getting them into the plant. And of course, as a result, this next slide shows some of the yield that came off of this. Our biggest return as far as yields were where we put the nutrients along with the liquid carbon there. There's where we're getting 10, 12 bushel differences in wheat yields there with the liquid carbon added. And again, that, you know, even at $4 wheat, you could start to see, hey, this is a profitable return to my investment here. When I take that, I'm going to put nutrients. I have to put nutrients on. This wheat requires that nutrient. But now let's make sure that nutrient that we invested money in gets into the plant. And that shows what we found in wheat. We've seen some similar results as we go to corn. I've got a couple of slides here that look at corn, where we put Monty's liquid carbon on. Looking at slides 9 and 10 there, why we've got a slide here that shows the difference between corn yields without liquid carbon and corn yields with liquid carbon, either applied in furrow at planting, or we put it both at planting and at V5. And again, you could check between the untreated check there with 165 and the liquid carbon at both times at 185. There's a 10 bushel increase, or even up to a 20 bushel increase, all the way up to a 22 bushel increase when we use the liquid carbon. We've seen similar results in 2014 at the Vernon James Center site there. Again, you see the difference between the check and Monty's liquid carbon there. Compared with some other starter solutions here, we got some advantages where we added nutrients, but the real advantage is when we got them into the plant. And again, there's a 22 bushel, 23 bushel yield increase that came from adding the liquid carbon to the nutrients. So indeed, that gives you an idea of the kind of impact that liquid carbon can have, particularly the activated liquid carbon that Monty's has, which is really critical. It's not just the adding humics, but adding humics that have that energy, that activated energy that comes from those carboxyl and phenolic groups. That's so critical in seeing those kind of results there.
I was just curious, now that slide that you were showing earlier, you were showing results on wheat, and it was pretty dramatic. Now you're talking soft red wheat in that case?
That's right. That's soft red wheat in North Carolina, yeah.
Now, are you seeing similar results in all different classes of wheat then?
We are. We tried on hard red winter wheat. We've got some similar results there. Really, wheat is, whether it's hard red or Durham's or the soft red, it's all about getting those tillers at the beginning. And that tiller development is driven by the rate of growth that plant has. We've done lots of work in measuring how fast the plant puts on leaves and puts on tillers, and that really is related to nutrient uptake during that critical early period. Particularly in winter planted crops there. You got that short fall period before it turns cold. You got a short period of time to take up nutrients and get those tillers established.
Right.
That's really where the rubber meets the road there.
And especially sometimes where you came from in Kansas, sometimes it can be really dry in the fall and you need every boost you can get to get that plant up and going. Joe, this is something that I know you've had a chance to kind of visit all over the place, but this is something that it doesn't matter where you are. If you're a farmer and you're involved in agriculture, you can take advantage of this, right?
Absolutely. And it goes back to what Dr. Heiniger was just explaining, and we talked about this afternoon before the show. Because it's an activated humic, it's like a catalyst. So when you add it to the soil or you add it to other products or you even spray it on as foliar, the plant realizes this high energy component of these carboxyl chains. And that's where you really get response, especially in the soil, especially in the plant, or adding it to other products. Like we make Roundup work better if you have a humic in with it, just because of the chelation factor and the activation factor. So that's what we're trying to show, and he's actually documented how that when you activate a humic and you make it soluble, it has a whole different energy component compared to raw brown coal or just ground up coal. So this is what is really driving this, no matter what soil you put it in, whether it's in Nebraska or in North Carolina or wherever it is. I mean, you've got your different components all over the United States. You got high pHs in the north, you got low pHs in the south, you got low organic matter in the south, you got high organic matter in the north, and our product works under all of those circumstances to actually give that farmer a benefit to maximizing what they're doing. I mean, the farmers are really needing something to put on to make their fertilizers work better, their chemicals work better, to make their farming practices perform better, because they're all after higher yields, they're all after better return on investments. This is where Monty's really excels with our products.
And this really comes into play when you use it with liquid nitrogen, right? Where it really can accentuate the effect there.
Yeah, Dr. Heiniger's had some great results on showing how that an activated humic can actually buffer. I mean, the picture we have on the screen is 28 gallons of liquid nitrogen per acre on the right and the left, and we added humic on the right, and it reduced the burn because of the activity level of that humic. It takes the salt effect out of liquid nitrogen and keeps it from burning the leaves of the wheat when we put it on there.
That's amazing.
It's fascinating, really, yeah. It makes your nitrogen more efficient, less stress on the wheat. It's just all kinds of benefits to that component, and Dr. Heiniger can address what he's seen as well.
And that gives it a head start if it doesn't have to deal with that burn that you were talking about there. It makes a healthier plant, and it can get along a little faster that way, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, indeed. it helps bond to those ammonium ions, and it really helps keep them in solution and keeps them away from burning that plant. And that has both a benefit in the burn that we just saw on that slide, but also it providing that ammonia, then transferring it to the plant through that root system. So indeed, there's a lot of benefit there.
And again, I'll remind everybody, we have a toll-free number. If you want to learn more about these products, you can call in. There are operators standing by to help you with your questions. And that number is toll-free. It's 800-978-6342, or just go to montysplantfood.com as well. Joe, you and I, again, we were talking before the program started, and we were kind of having a powwow this afternoon and talking about different things. And I was fascinated to hear you talk about the different places you've had a chance to visit in the U.S., but also around the globe. Is that similar soil problems that farmers face in other parts of the world as well as what they are right here in the U.S.?
It truly is. I've had an opportunity with Monty's to travel into South America, Peru, Costa Rica, Mexico, as well as all over the United States. I had an opportunity one year to go to the Philippines and Indonesia and Malaysia. And really, it doesn't matter where you go in the world. Farmers are still having the same kinds of issues with their soil. One of the different things in South America may be a different organic component because it's more of a tropical type soil. And then you go all the way to North Dakota, you have a different high organic. In the south in Georgia, the soils get so hot that it keeps burning up the organic matter, so they're very low. So it doesn't matter, even across the world on the other side of the continents, they still run into those same type of issues, and they're all looking for something. I mean, you mentioned about having conferences, and they come from all over the world.
Yeah.
Well, they're looking for something that will stimulate their soil, rebuild it, increase organic matter, stabilize it, the whole works to grow bigger and better crops and higher yields, which is the big demand in agriculture today. Is we got to get to higher yields, and we have to do it profitably. So how's the farmers going to do that? Well, commodity prices aren't helping a lot, but we still have to deal with it.
Well, and we were talking before the show started here, and I was letting you know, I farmed for 25 years, and I was a big proponent of no-till farming, reduced-till farming, ridge-till, slot-till, you name it, some sort of a till to save that soil moisture out there. And there are a lot of conferences that now deal with that particularly, and I would think they would be really highly interested in learning more about this.
Yeah, because across the Midwest, we have a lot of farmers that center pivot irrigate. There's a lot of irrigation goes on under agriculture. Well, one of the big issues is how do I conserve water?
Yeah.
The water I put out there, I want it to all be taken up by the plant if at all possible. Well, actually humics play right into that role, because once you put it into the soil, or even adding it to the center pivot, it's putting it into the plant and the soil at the same time. And so you'll find that over time, as you build up your humics and you build up your ecosystem, then your soils become more efficient at holding water longer to feed the plant longer. And it also allows the root systems to go deeper. So these are some of the components that farmers are looking at and addressing, is how do I manage my water, especially, to get more of it. And we've already seen in California where they've had, to check their water, they can't irrigate but so much. Well,
sure.
You need things like this type product to help hold water and help build that soil. And remember, humics have a cation as well as a anion component, which works with the soil. So it's a natural fit for soil to build it, to work as a catalyst in it. It's just a natural type component.
Ron, you and I were talking earlier today about, and we're both from Kansas originally, and of course that's the wheat state. And even though we were talking about the way the prices are right now, and we're just hovering around that $4 benchmark these days. In fact, I think we have a chart of what's been happening with the prices here lately with the wheat prices, but it's phenomenal how much they have dropped. And I believe Kansas City wheat can maybe be a little above $4. If you look at the nearby contracts, in some cases we're under $4. Farmers out there all across the country have been telling me, I don't know if I want to plant wheat anymore. Can they really make money on it?
Yes, I think making money at wheat is all about finding opportunity. Yeah, one of the things you don't want to miss is an opportunity to make money when the weather's good. And when that hits, you don't want to be outside the game. And so the farmers still have an opportunity here to make make money with wheat. What they've got to do is make their investment as efficiently as possible. And that's one of the things that Monty's liquid carbon has going for it. You know, it's all about opportunity versus risk. You know, Monty's liquid carbon gives them the opportunity to take what nutrients they've applied there and get it into the plant when that weather is good, so that plant can do everything. It can make the big yields that they need to overcome the price. You know, it's price times yield, so yield's the multiplier here. So indeed, it's going to be yield how you've got to respond to these lower prices here. So you get the opportunity. On the other side, Monty's also helps mitigate the risk. So when you've got drier weather, it helps keep that moisture there longer. It helps move those nutrients into that plant, get that plant moving and keep it moving under dry. So you still get economic yield. So, you know, you look at 10, 15, 12 bushel increase using Monty's, that pencils out. That return to investment is something growers really need to consider. The other thing I think is important to mention right here, you know, some growers may be saying, well, I've got plenty of humics in my soil. That's one of the most common misconceptions that I come across here. Actually, because humics are so reactive and because they're short chain carbons, they tend to be the first thing that disappears when our soils are worked. They tend to oxidize quickly. They tend to get bound up with glyphosate and other chemicals and deactivated basically. So in many cases, farmers may have plenty of organic matter, but very little humic acid in their soil. So they've lost the energy in that soil. So again, adding this Monty's liquid carbon with this activated humic is going to revive that soil and give them that opportunity to make that yield that they need.
And Joe, you guys have done a lot of research on using humics on wheat, right?
Yes, we have. It's been fantastic. Dr. Heiniger's probably led the way in all of that research, and we've taken some of that to other parts of the country to help duplicate the results. But he's right. I mean, he hit on the very topic about, and farmers really don't think about this all the time, but it's about moving nutrients. And they put on fertilizers every year, and usually the same amount every year, and they struggle to either get the same yield or maintain that yield, when really you need a component in the soil that will actually work as that catalyst to move those nutrients they put on, convert them, move them into the plant, and therefore they're going to get higher yields. And this is what we found by adding this one little product, activated liquid carbon humic. And because it is activated, we stimulate the soil and the microbes in the soil and the nutrients to break down and go into that plant to get a quicker and better yield. As he said, a consistent 10 or 12 bushel yield in wheat, 22 bushel high in corn. Well, this is part of it. You're moving more nutrients into that plant, and that's the whole secret to the higher yields.
And getting that in the soil, it really does help to break down the residue as well,
Yeah,
and that saves on your fertilizer bills down the road as well.
Sure, absolutely. We'll talk about that here in a little bit.
All right. Well, we have certainly heard some great information about the solutions that Monty's products have provided to growers around the country. And if you have questions during the show, you're also welcome to call Monty's direct. They have folks standing by right now. Or you can visit their website at montysplantfood.com for more information. Remember, that number again is 800-978-6342 if you want to write that down. So we'll talk more about Monty's products with Dr. Heiniger and with Joe when we come back, especially the residue management or the benefits that residue management can have on your bottom line. Come on back. Welcome back to Rural America Live with Monty's Plant Food. With me are Joe Dedman, Monty's Vice President of Agronomy, and Dr. Ron Heiniger. He, of course, is with North Carolina State University. Well, before the break, we were discussing humics and their impact on yield and soil conditions and making money growing $4 wheat with our guest, Joe and Dr. Heiniger. Joe, you said that you have a way that you can calculate your return on investment. You might share that information with our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, especially when we're looking at $4 wheat and based on some of Dr. Heiniger's research and others where we've actually taken, for example, the 10 bushel, I'll use 10 bushel as a consistent yield then when we go out with our liquid activated carbon at planting time, and usually that's at 2 quarts to the acre, we get extra tillering, more tillering, which he also showed you in one of his slides. And tillering is what you have to get to the yield components you want next spring. And so then we also have in the second part of the growing program, and he addressed that a little bit too, and I did, about adding carbon to liquid nitrogen and reducing that burn and increasing the efficiency of it going into the plant. Well, those are 2 components of using our activated humic that will actually help you put that 10 bushel on the bottom line. So if you take $4 wheat times 10 bushels, and you use even those 2 quarts, and then also another quart with the carbon, with the nitrogen, your return on investment is around $25 if we figure it that way. If you go 2 quarts even, let's say you're putting on a lot more nitrogen or even multiple applications of nitrogen, and you go as high as 2 quarts, you're still returning, you're spending roughly $10 versus to get back 20. So it's a really great return on investment to just put that activated humic in there to make that product work and perform the way it does.
Joe, right before the break, you and I kind of did a shameless little tease about using a new product you have called Humi-Till as a way to break down residue out there. And I talked about the fact that I love no-till farming. It's a great way to save moisture, conserve moisture, and maintain those nutrients in the ground so they don't wash away and all that sort of thing. But tell us about Humi-Till and how that can really help.
Well, we launched Humi-Till again on your show. I think it was last spring that we initiated it. And we had a lot of farmers use it last fall with great success. And remember, this is tremendously built just to break down all types of residue. So it has a microbial component added in with our activated humic product that decomposes cellulose, decomposes keratin, as well as lignin that's in that high stacked hybrid. And it really doesn't matter if you're no-tilling or if you're conventional tilling. We've seen farmers across the country where you go out even in a conventional field and there still is stalks that he's had for 4 or 5 years. They just have not broken down.
Right.
And so what we did was look at the whole component of is it a big help to the farmer to decompose those corn stalks and release those nutrients to feed the next year's crop, which actually could save him on some of his fertility components if he calculates it and gets the residue to release those nutrients and feed that crop. We have pictures on the screen here side by sides where we actually treated it with the Humi-Till versus a non-treatment, and you see immediately how it's already broken down that pith inside the corn stalk. It's changing color, it's decomposing. And the biggest thing that we heard from farmers, which we actually thought would happen, is even though you see these stalks on the screen, the farmer may go out next spring and still see those stalks standing in his field. Well, he immediately might say, well, I don't think that Humi-Till product worked, till he puts his equipment in the field. And the second he does and runs the equipment through there, those stalks just explode and shatter, fall all to pieces into many, many pieces all over the soil. Then that's released to feed that crop he just now planted into. And this is where we're hearing tremendous feedback from our growers and from farmers that says, hey, that Humi-Till really did release my nutrients. I got a more even stand of corn or soybeans or whatever he planted in there. And I had a greater emergence, right down the row, faster, quicker, all of these components, because you released natural food that's already in that corn stalk. It's been converted into plant food. You're just breaking that down and releasing it back to the plant. The plant immediately can take it up. It doesn't have to do any conversion.
Well, and fertilizer is not cheap at all. Who wants to waste their money?
That's right, exactly.
And I was fascinated to hear you talking about that, because as a no-till farmer myself, there was not much more frustrating than having the stalks bridge up where the coulters couldn't cut through them, and then you had to stop and you had a big wad of trash out in the field.
Absolutely. Plus the tire situation, puncturing
Well,
tires,
yeah.
poking holes in them.
Yeah, we were talking about that,
Yeah.
and I just about chewed big tires in half on the combine and the tractor just because the stocks were so tough.
That's right. That's right.
That's an excellent point. Well, Dr. Heiniger, what's your experience? What is it about farmers that should cause them to worry about their residue management on the field?
Well, I think it's critical, as Joe mentioned earlier. We did a nice study at NC State here, it's been almost 10 years ago, where we actually tracked nutrient release from residue, corn residue, into a wheat crop. And we found out that most of the nutrient in the corn stalk residue didn't get released until way late in the following spring, too late for the wheat crop to take advantage of those nitrogen, potassium elements in that tissue. So Humi-Till has a tremendous opportunity here to release those nutrients when that wheat crop really needs, right off the bat there, so that they can be taken up. I've got a study, of course, this was one of the first years we've had an opportunity to really work with this product. So we put it on some wheat there, and in this slide here, we show some of the results, and we just got back. I need some hot off the press for this. We just harvested this crop last June. So there's no nitrogen. Of course, we expect the yield to be, there's 30% UAN and 120 pounds of actual nitrogen per acre. And then we got the Humi-Till product applied to the residue, and then with that 30% UAN. And you can see there we had 10 bushel yield. The beauty of that, having that product where you've got the humic acids along with the bacteria, is as those nutrients are released, that humic acid can continue to work with, as we spoke earlier, as a bridge, capturing those nutrients and helping facilitate their movement into that plant. So it's not like you're leaching those nutrients or losing those as that residue breaks down. So I think this combination of a bacterial product that helps in decomposition along with the humic acid is a real stroke of genius.
Well, and with the modern yields that we're seeing and the modern hybrids, they can really crank up the populations. That means more plants per acre out there and more trash.
That's
right?
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, you're able to actually put dollars and cents to the use of Humi-Till on farm operations out there. Tell us about that.
We did that. We actually did some trials with a company in Texas where they actually measured the decomposition of all kinds of things like wheat stubble, corn stubble, hay stubble, you name any kind of a stubble. I think there was some cotton or whatever in there. And so they came up showing us that we had something like an 84% breakdown when we added the microbial package with the activated humic. And so we turned around and took that based on a 200 bushel corn crop yield, is just, let's say that's an average. And we use today's current fertilizer prices, because if fertilizer goes up, then it's going to be worth more. If it comes down, it's not worth as much. But we came out with something like a $64 return, and if you figure that on a 200 bushel basis, it's like $80 worth of nutrients out there in that field that the farmer can actually get a benefit from, especially if he puts it on post-harvest. And we talked about this earlier this afternoon. Yes, the best time to do that is post-harvest, right after he's taken the corn off. And we know that farmers are short of time a lot of times. So if they get it on, they're going to be dollars ahead. But let's just say they didn't get it on last fall and even put it on in the spring. The same thing's going to happen even while the crop's growing. But they won't initially get that quick benefit unless they put it on several weeks prior to planting, of that stalk decomposing so it shatters and falls apart even at planting. But they could even do it at planting with their burn down or their chemical application. And even if the farmer has conventional tillage, it's going to still make that nutrient release that's tied up in that corn stalk. So it's a win-win for everybody here when you put on a product like this that breaks down residue and releases nutrients. The farmer can actually sit there and go, well, you know, I am going to get X dollars benefit from that corn stubble that's out there that I can use as credit against next year's crop that I'm planting. And we know that farmers are looking for every avenue they can to maximize their input costs and return on investments And this is where we feel like we've developed some really good products to provide them answers to do that.
And, we were all kind of talking before the show here about the fact that it's almost like compound interest, isn't it? If you add this product every year and keep doing it, it like exponentially builds up your soil profile from breaking down that material, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. I mean, when you think about building soils, you're thinking about building both your organic matter component as well as this energy, humic acid component. Mm-hmm. So as these humic acids work, they basically then help increase each other. They're breaking down residue. They're activating the nutrients in the plant, so the plant grows more. So now more residue to break down next year. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle that helps build this soil over time. When we do this.
Well, and being a past irrigator myself, you grow up in the plains and you have to irrigate, or your corn yields aren't that great a lot of times, especially if you get a really dry year out there. But in a case like this, if you apply that Humi-Till and break down that residue and build up that soil profile and help the tilth of the soil, it's a lot more advantageous, I guess. When you do get rainfall, it soaks in better, you maintain that moisture, and it'll actually save on your irrigation bill too.
Yeah, and remember, add this component that Dr. Heiniger was talking about earlier, where you have a high energy humic, and you've added it to a microbial package, and that microbial package really just explodes once you've put it out in the soil because of this energy component of humic. So you got the best of both worlds going on here. You're digesting your stalks and you're complementing your soils at the same time.
You have any thoughts on breakdown?
Breakdown is the same product that we just registered for GrowMark in their territory. So that is a registered trademark for GrowMark, for the GrowMark and the FS locations throughout Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, I think even over in Indiana, and they're seeing really the same results. We give that product to several of their different field sales guys, and they saw the identical breakdown of corn stalks, that it broke up that lignin and then that cellulose. And they're seeing the very same thing. In fact, the farmers from their territory are reporting the very same thing. Hey, it shatters when I go through it with the planter. It helped with my tractor tires. I mean, you name it, and it's added this extra component. And I know we're in the Corn Belt. Iowa and Illinois is rich in farmland, but they're still wanting higher yields and they're wanting better return on their investment. Well, this is still a component that you can use even in a high production soil like the Iowa and Illinois component that may add one more component to the farmer to maximize his yield return.
Well, and again, I do want to pass along our phone number for our viewers and our listeners out there that may be tuning in. If you want more information, it's easy to get it. We have operators standing by and analysts that can help you with your questions that you might have about these products. You can call us toll free. Here's that number if you want to write it down. Again, 800-978-6342. Give us a call. It's toll free, and they are standing by to answer your questions right now. Or just go to montysplantfood.com. Well, it's great information for all of our growers, Joe. We sure appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And we've certainly heard some great information throughout the program tonight. When we return from the break, we're going to be talking more about the products with Dr. Ron Heiniger and the fine folks from Monty's. And remember, again, that phone line, you can call us at that number. And here's another line, 877-731-6733. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, we've been spending some time tonight talking about the successes of Monty's products, especially Monty's liquid carbon and Humi-Till for residue management. And just a reminder, the Monty's team is standing by to answer your questions right now. You can call toll free at 800-978-6342 for more information, and they'll be glad to help. Or just visit the website as well. Go to montysplantfood.com. Well, we're joined tonight by Joe Dedman and Dr. Ron Heiniger from NC State University. Well, Dr. Heiniger, again, it's great to have you with us on the program, and thanks for coming into the studio here. You wanted to talk about some research you've been doing with MicroHance, another product from Monty's. You might explain that.
Sure. One of the problems that we run into, particularly in North Carolina on some of our sandier soils, is micronutrients. You know, it's important these days to balance your nutrients in your soil, not just to focus on P and K, but also to think about the relationship between phosphorus and zinc and between potassium and nitrogen. All of those are important in nutrient uptake. And one of the things that I like that Monty's has done is combine the humic acids with some micronutrient products here in a product called MicroHance. I've got, here's a slide showing the analysis of that, along with a picture of some cornlet plots that we had out there. What's interesting about that picture is you notice that corn stalk, and in fact every single corn stalk there has 2 ears. And when you get a corn that puts on 2 ears, you know you got some good growth going on out there in that field. And the large part of that success there was the fact that indeed the MicroHance stimulated the uptake of zinc that helped complement the amount of phosphorus we had in this animal waste situation there. We've done some work with that in looking at conditions in which we added the MicroHance to, say, a starter fertilizer product. Here's an example of that a year ago, where we looked at, say, 3-18-18, which is a common starter fertilizer for corn in North Carolina, a heavy potassium, phosphorus, P and K mix, and then we added the MicroHance, and again, we got a nice yield boost there, over 20, 30, almost 30 bushels there in that situation. We had some 19-19-0, similar yield, about an 11 bushel increase on that. In another case here, just to drive home the point there, we did a similar study on now this is on a Portsmouth silt loam. This would be a darker soil with more organic matter. And you see the impact there where we had added the MicroHance to the 3-18-18 or the MicroHance to the 19-19-0. Again, very impressive results. And it's all about, again, this linkage between the humic acids and nutrients, in this case particularly micronutrients, helping complement the amount of phosphorus and potassium we already had there from our fertilizer, helping make that fertilizer, again, more efficient through the combination of that humic acid and a micronutrient product. So I was real excited about this product. It mixes well, it works well through these systems, and so it's something I think growers, not just in the Carolinas, need to think about, but anywhere where you got high levels of phosphorus and you're wondering, why in the world can I get these plants taking up this phosphorus? Well, I think about what your micronutrients look like out there. That has a big role in the efficient use of fertilizers these days.
Excellent point, and it's kind of a tough mission to do, isn't it?
It sure is, indeed. You know, these farmers have enough on their plate just worried about the basics, but it is all about balancing what you've got in your soil. Soil health is a very complex system. We talk about the carbons in there. We talk now about nutrients and micronutrients being in balance. The farmer's got a big job, and that's what makes life exciting, I think, on the farm.
All right, Joe. Hey now, and I'm not trying to be a wise owl. You actually introduced a product last year on this show, right?
That's correct.
And it was called Hey Now.
Yes.
And what is that? Tell us about it, and what are farmers doing with this?
Well, as always, you know, people try to think up some kind of little name that farmers would remember.
That's cute. I like it.
And I'm sure they have a lot of fun around the coffee table with some jokes about Hey Now, but that product has really proved to be really a great product for farmers and Monty's. We developed it. It also has a little bit of our humic component in there to make it work and perform the way it does. And you can foliar apply it. Again, this is a management type tool. So the farmer usually goes out in the spring, puts on a lot of fertilizer, and usually that's all he does, and he gets 2 or 3, 4 cuttings that he hopes, provided he gets the rain. This product can actually be applied after each cutting. You'll want 3 or 4 inches of regrowth, and foliar feed it. It'll boost the growth. It will boost the nutrient levels, the TDN, the protein, everything in the hay or the pasture. And this is a great fit for a lot of farmers that want to manage their pastures with less cost, as well as do that for their hay fields. I want to maximize each hay cutting so I have good quality all the way through the season. This is a great product to do that. So this has been a component. We heard farmers and their need in saying, hey, I really wish I had something to really just kind of boost my hay without being too expensive. Well, this is where this product really falls into that category of providing them a management tool to go out there and maximize their hay and their pastures. And I mean, we got it works on everything, whether it's alpacas or horses or pastures or cattle. It's a great product, safe to apply. I mean, you can put it on even while, you know, the cattle are in the field if you needed to. So it's a great product. And farmers that have used it already, starting like last fall and this spring, they're giving rave reviews for Hay Now. It's really working out exactly as they wanted it to.
That's a fascinating product. What kind of results have you seen so far then?
Well, it does what we're talking about, because we recently released a little flyer just reminding farmers, hey, would it be great for you to get as good a quality hay on your third cutting as you did on your first? Well, Hay Now can help you do that. So that's the component that we're talking about. Is most of the time third cutting hay or fourth cutting hay is so small, they even have issues, should I cut it or not? Well, this is a product that could boost it up there, get you a higher yield, higher quality, and for those that sell hay, it's going to keep their quality up. For those that want more production, it helps do that too. So it's really a great product to use.
And again, just to remind everybody, if you want some questions answered about Hay Now or any of the Monty's products, here's that toll-free number one more time. I'll pass that along to you. Jot it down. It's 800-978-6342 if you want to call in, and our operators will be glad to help you out with your questions about any of the Monty's products, or just go to montysplantfood.com as well. So, Dr. Heiniger, what's your experience with Hay Now?
Well, I haven't had a chance to use that product on my research. Of course, I deal mostly with corn and wheat. But, you know, all night long here we've been talking about improving the efficiency of the investment farmers are making in nutrients, whether that's direct application of nutrients for major crops, or whether it's like Humi-Till trying to recycle nutrients from our residue, or like in this case, by using small amounts of nutrients to help improve forage production for these growers. And again, the principle remains the same. You're trying to bring that nutrient that you're applying into that crop. And again, I think this is another example of a good idea where we can use smaller amounts of nutrients that are safe to put on the hay, don't burn, and allow that grower to get that small amount of nutrient right into that crop and make it effective then.
Well, Joe, as usual, you have a lot going on at Monty's. I'm just curious, do you have any other products coming up down the pipeline that you want to talk with folks about?
Yeah, we actually do. We did some research this spring, beginning this spring actually, with a microbial product. And we know that is a big buzz in the industry right now. Farmers are beginning to look at microbials. You know, we even added to that whole mixture tonight how that low organic soils or different issues going on, too much phosphorus, has kind of stifled some of the biology that's going on in the soil. And we know how important that is to break down nutrients, to feed the root system, to move those nutrients into the plant. So we came online with a product. We haven't named it yet. In fact, we're going to name it shortly and then introduce it again for spring. But it's a 25-plus microbial product of different enzymes, microbes, and so forth that addresses lots of issues in the soil. And it works in a very diverse dry soils versus wet soils versus all kinds of issues that the farmers are dealing with. And not only that, it's OMRI certified, as well as you can spray it foliarly on the plant and even make the plant respond to this microbial package. Here's just a little example of where we had no microbes, and then a small amount at an 8-ounce rate, and we got like 2.2% increase in yield. And then when you go all the way up to a pint, we get 5.3% increase in yield. So microbes are playing a role. You're not going to replace all the microbes in the soil, but it bridges a gap. And so when you mix even these microbes with this high energy humic that we have, we get this tremendous explosion of microbes that does a lot of things in the soil as well as the plant, and we increase that whole efficiency. So we're looking at several more microbial packages to bring to market to provide farmers solutions. We have some other products on the radar we hope to bring to the farmers by spring. Just another tool in their toolbox to help them manage and get the most efficiency they can out of their products. And you know, our products are available at most all locations across the southeastern parts through southern states, GrowMark, TFC, a lot of independents, MFA out in Missouri, all across the network, even up in the Northwest some. So again, we're branching out, we're continuing to grow, we're continuing to produce products that provide solutions for the issues that farmers are addressing. And this is the fun part for me, because I could go out and talk to a farmer and go, you know what, I think I got a product that can fix that. And so he loves to work with you because nothing else has helped. In a lot of our farmer meetings, we go, hey, give me the worst field you got first. Let me work on that, and that'll help. So they're all willing to do that. Yeah, I got a field I can't get fixed for 40 years. You have at it. So,
you like a challenge.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, you do. Well, Ron, when you're talking about microbial products, what kind of a role would they play in agriculture?
Well, they're very important. You know, we showed that picture of a healthy soil there with when we talked about carbon earlier. Microbials are critical in that soil. They help actually fix some nitrogen. Certain microbes do that. Microbes, as we mentioned with Humi-Till, help break down residue. There's a whole range and host of microbes. You know, I just saw an article both on the internet and in some of the major publications about where is going to be the next green revolution in agriculture. Well, the last revolution came from plant breeding. The next green revolution is going to be from understanding these soils and restoring them to what they can be as far as productive centers in which we provide nutrients effectively, have these microbes working in conjunction and in harmony with the management that we're putting out. That's where the next green revolution is going to come. And indeed, that's critical. It is exciting to be a part of that, to see things as we grow in our understanding of what these soils and what these components of the soil do.
Absolutely. It's kind of a new frontier when it comes to residue management and nutrient management as well. Joe, I wanted to ask you real quickly before we run out of time. You mentioned a term a little bit ago. You called it OMRI. OMRI. And for anyone that may not be familiar with that, I just wondered if you could take a moment and explain what that is.
Yeah, that's an organization that people send products to make sure it's organic in nature, so that you can apply it to, especially a lot of organic growers have to use products that are certified by this OMRI organization. And so our liquid carbon product is OMRI. Our dry carbon product is OMRI certified. And we have several others that we're working on now. But this fits the bill for a lot of the organic growers, that they can use it in their soils as well as foliar apply it, and their plants will respond to it, stimulate it. And so this is another area that we're trying to address even with organic growers. Of our product and the true nature it is, and it's really safe to use. In fact, most all of our products that I know of that we have on our website as well are really safe to use. I mean, you could spray it with your children in the yard, or your dogs, or your pets, or your cattle in the field, because it's that safe. And again, it's back to this humic component that's so active, that has the energy in it that makes our products really perform the way it does.
So if you had to give a 30-second elevator speech to somebody that you just met out there, a farmer producer at a meeting, and explain why they need to consider some of these products from Monty's, how would you do that in 30 seconds?
Well, and I think we've addressed a lot of that here tonight, but even at a farmer meeting, it's like I said earlier, farmers are missing some kind of component that take them to the higher yield. Now, is there a silver bullet? No, but you can take our activated humic product and add it and combine it with anything that you're doing, and you increase the efficiency of it, and you make it perform better. And this is really what farmers need to take a look at, is I've done this for years and years and years, and I get the same results. So what if I add this activated humic component to my fertility program or my chemical program? Will it make it perform better? This is what we're after.
That's excellent. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, Joe Dedman and Dr. Ron Heiniger. A pleasure having both of you here on the set with us. I appreciate that. And once again, if you want more information, you can call toll free. Here's that number one more time, 800-978-6342, or just go to their website. It's mottysplantfood.com. Thanks for joining us on Rural America Night. And good night from Rural America's most important network.